Well, that'll teach me to pause. When I paused and then tried to resume, it crashed Camtasia. I was worried I lost the entire hour's worth of lecture. I would have began sobbing helplessly. Looks like I recovered it, so I'm going to continue with the last 3 minutes of the lecture. We have a car class assignment and a book class assignment. Let's see which one of those would be better to gussy up with our newfound information. Create a class name book, the instance members are strings, title and author, and then the class members are, okay, I don't want to do that, but we are going to use the idea. And let's look at the other class and see if we like it a little bit better for recycling. Maybe that fraction in triangles. All I want is something with 3 methods rather than just 2. This doesn't look too bad though. I think we can come up with our own. So, create a patient class. Patients have names, phone numbers, addresses. It's about enough. Make them all strings. Make all the member variables, the instance variables, strings. Provide getters and setters. For each variable. Follow our guidelines. Make the variables private, methods public. Add a print method that will print the patient out. Add a dot equals method that will compare 2 patients. One thing we need to remember is we're not going to just be able to use equals equals, right? We're going to have to use dot equals inside the strings. So it would look something like this. Public Boolean patient, which accepts another patient named other. The first thing we could do is just to check to see if parentheses this equals other in parentheses return true. Then if that's not the case, if they're not the exact same, memory address, then we can start comparing them. If this dot name dot equals parentheses other dot name in parentheses equals false in parentheses return false, right? Because they're not the same. And then you do the same thing for the address. If parentheses this dot address dot equals the other dot address equals false, then return false. Do the same thing with our last variable, which is the phone number. If parentheses this dot phone underscore number dot equals the other dot phone underscore number in parentheses equals false. We could probably rewrite these a little bit. How about we just use the exclamation syntax rather than comparing it to false? So if not, this dot name dot equals the other name, return false. If not, this dot address dot equals the other dot address, return false. And then lastly, if not, this dot phone number dot equals parentheses other dot phone number. take out the equals equals false, then return false. Lastly, if all of our members do not fail these tests, then we can return a true. And it's not public Boolean patient, it's public Boolean equals, right? That's what we're actually doing. I will provide the dot equals method this time. We're going to add 3 constructors. Add 3 constructors. Here are their method headers, right? Public patient nothing, that's the default constructor. Public patient, I'm being a little bit too specific here. String name, comma, string phone underscore number, comma, string address, in parentheses. And then one more that actually accepts a patient object, just like our myPoint did. Alrighty. And then I'm going to say of course, but it's not strictly true. This one, this constructor, should do this dot name equals other dot name, this dot phone number equals other dot phone number, and this dot address equals other dot address. That's not the best way to do it. Yeah, that'll do. That'll do. I like it. And what else? I could ask for a two-string method. I think that's enough. So here are the headers for the methods. Last thing is your, kind of a part 2. Add code to main in your client class, your driver class, to create 3 patients, P1, P2, P3, using each of the 3 constructors. Remember that when you use the default constructor, you're going to have to call set name and set phone number and set address. Then compare P1 to P2 and print same, print P1 equals P2. If they are the same, then do the same thing. Then compare P1 to P3 and print, right? P1 to print P1 equals P3 if they are the same. And if they're not the same, otherwise print, P1 does not equal. P1 does not equal P2. And then, otherwise, print P2 does not equal P3. So, you're going to try to engineer it so that P1 does not equal P2. So when we create our 3 patients, use the default constructor and setters to create P1. Use the parameterized constructor to create P2. Go ahead and assign the same values. No, make sure you assign different values. To P2. and then use the clone constructor. I'm going to erase that word. Use the constructor that accepts another patient reference for P3 to create P3. So that's part 2, right? Modify main. Part 1 is creating the patient class. Why did I do that? Should have just said part 1. And just remember that this is not the same as a client class, so you're not going to put main inside the patient class. Instead, you're going to put main inside the homework class, or whatever you want to call your client, your driver. All right. I believe that's good enough for homework. A little bit more specific than the last assignment was, but you know, our topics are getting a little bit more complex. What does this homework demonstrate? This homework demonstrates constructors, dot equals methods. Really, that's all it demonstrates. It just takes a long time to do that because we're implementing a good class with getters and setters and with multiple constructors, overloaded constructors, right? And a dot equals method. All right, I think that's enough.